right.
Getting hot in this sweater. Milk was
I,
a bad choice for
I
my
think
main
that I
show.
think you should probably check. I think your AC might have gone out. I could tell you're sweating a little bit during the show.
I mean, I'm ready to rip this thing off. Like they're not gonna come after me, right? Like
No, I don't think so. You can throw it on if there's some breaking news here.
get it right. I'll keep it close so we can
You
keep the look just in case there's
yeah,
breaking news. The Cowboys game, is that over yet? Are they finally done getting
I think they want it to be done.
their star blown off the helmet? I mean,
Oh boy,
wishing their stadium was in damage right now and they couldn't play in there. I mean, that was
they
just as ugly as it gets.
yeah. I don't know what's. I mean, a year difference is huge for the Cowboys, and they really haven't changed much personnel. Um, you know, outside of Tony Pollard leaving the team, I don't think there's much of a big change, and so you got to wonder. Like we saw head coach already go. Jerry Jones has a little high expectations, and there was talks that they might get fired after losing the playoffs last year, embarrassingly, as they are this season. So, could the Cowboys be the next one looking for a new head coach? I don't know.
Certainly could be. I mean, certainly doesn't look good for him making it into next season right now. You know, when the time is to make the change, we'll
Yeah,
see. But the other hard part is he's running your entire offense right now. You let your
yeah,
offensive coordinator from previous years go, so it's kind of like you blow that up, you're blowing the whole ship up. So
for
they're kind
sure.
of, he's a lame duck coach at this point, and until he's eliminated from the playoffs, I think they're going to let him keep trying to put fans in the seats. But if they keep playing like that at home, what are you going to do?
What happened to their defense? I'm just, I know they got new defensive coordinator, but I mean, and Dan Quinn is an incredible defensive coordinator, and he's clearly doing some good stuff in Washington, but it can't be this big of a drop off. I mean, you hired a seasoned guy, but you know,
Shows what scheme does and what
for,
sometimes what it is, your scheme is making up for deficiencies, whether it's a
yeah,
corner, linebacker, different spots, and those deficiencies get exposed when you try to play a more
yeah,
advanced, a more aggressive scheme, and sometimes it just doesn't quite work. And offense, defense, the more you put on tape, the more they figure out. So you got to keep changing things up.
yeah. I'm looking through my phone right now, catch up on texts, and a couple of my group chats are making some good points. Not a lot of upsets in the NFL. You know, it's kind of predictable right now, which is kind of good for fantasy and kind of bad because there are matchup based players, and these matchups are going exactly how people think they're going. So I think right now, with not many upsets, not many surprises, you should really plan for who your team's playing and or who your players are playing, and game plan that way, whether you make a move or not. And I do think they make a good point. Not a lot of parity right now in the NFL.
No, not as much as you'd expect from the League of
Yeah,
Parity. I've got a
last year was crazy, and this year is kind of simmering down. We will see it, but right now is take advantage while you can.
I've got a very excited wife. She's up big, gonna win her fantasy matchup, so she's excited about that. She sat Travis Etienne, which is always a
Smart move.
good call when you can avoid the injury bugs.
Yeah,
Somehow her
better
intuition
move.
told her what to do. I've learned, just because she wants to make a bad call, I let her go with it. It's her team. I'm not going to
Right.
tell you who to start. If you have a feeling, you go with it, because
Yeah.
when the feeling's right, she loves it, and if it's not, it's at least it's not my fault. So
Yeah, there you go. I know.
it's these some of these players. You just keep seeing them ranked way up there.
Yeah.
Experts think they're going to do well because they had a good year last year, but people who don't play a ton of fantasy are like, why would I start a guy that hasn't played well this season?
Right.
We're a solid way into the season now. We're like a third of the way
Yeah.
through fantasy season. So,
It's
if
like
guys haven't been producing,
the less you know, almost the better. You're almost taking things at face value. Whereas if you're like so into it, and we can make an argument we're pretty into it, we're so stubborn, right? Like at the same time, we're like,
yeah,
no, this guy is going to turn it around.
his air yards are great this year.
Yeah,
He's getting
I just
targets like crazy.
getting
Like he's
anything.
got more end zone targets than anybody else on his
Right.
team. Like, clearly, this is the week, and sometimes it is clearly the week, and sometimes
Yeah.
not so much. And tight ends kind of fell back to earth after we were thinking finally they were coming alive. Tight
Yeah.
ends are what we thought they were.
Yeah. Although we'll talk about it. It's nice to see an Evan Ingram come back. He was leading the team in receptions. Mark Andrews, while only had like 3 receptions, at least we saw him. Like I was like, there's a highlight and it's Mark Andrews.
He's in the end zone. Hey,
he's in the end zone, and
give me a touchdown. That's all you need. And
like maybe it's London, and maybe London's kind of tight ends, but Cole Kmet had a huge game, and so tight ends have come back down, but at least we're seeing a little bit of a spark from the bigger names at this moment, because before that there was no spark. There was no spark from these guys. Maybe Travis Kelce, opened the floodgates. Even Laporta caught a big touchdown. So,
one catch, but still makes it pay off for you.
Hey, that's at this point, that's kind of what you're hoping for, right?
Yeah, at least it's not a 6-yard touchdown catch. It's 50 yards. Like, hey, that's a solid game out of a tight end. You get even just 50 yards. You don't even need the touchdown these days.
Exactly.
Take what you can get.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. So tight ends down to earth, but at least there's some hope. There's still some hope there, but these are worth the high picks. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm definitely glad I got Mark Andrews off the waiver in a league. Glad I held on to Kmet in another league. Yeah, people are bailing on guys like that, and so you got to kind of take advantage. But man, the studs came out today. It was a big week for fantasy, really. I mean, 5 weeks and everything, lots of touchdowns scored, and not many scored by just insignificant players. A lot of weeks you look up and who gave the fullback the ball? Like the Lions out there trying to get offensive lineman touchdowns.
Dude, that was crazy.
No. Don't do that. Amon-Ra's Day got saved late with a touchdown that he was supposed to pitch to a lineman earlier.
Look, I love a fat man touchdown though. It's they're nice, but when it's Amon-Ra passing it, it is really hard to be like, come on, man. Like I need Jared Goff. I need you, Amon-Ra.
They're almost just rubbing it into the Cowboys there. It's just like we've already got to our third page of our playbook today, but some of the guys that didn't need to dig deep into the playbook, your tried and true studs, Derrick Henry going out, man, I wish I had this guy in more leagues. You kind of knew that this was going to be the game plan for the Ravens, but everyone was so down on him. He was going into the season right around running back 10, 12. Everyone thought, well, if he doesn't score touchdowns, he doesn't catch passes, he's just going to get you like 80 yards. Well,
Lamar's going to steal all his rushes,
good for 2 touchdowns a week at this point. 132 and 2, and it's like we almost forgot about him, It's like, oh, yep, that's just another regular day for Derrick Henry. Cool, call him 20 points.
Yeah. One of my league mates in my main big money league drafted Travis Etienne over Derrick Henry in the second round, and he is kicking himself today. He sat him, started Tank Bixby playing against Derrick Henry. It's like worst case scenario. He's like, how did I allow this to happen? Why did I do this? Because to him, looking back, he's like, that was such an easy decision to not mess up, and I messed up because, to your point, you kind of forget how great Derrick Henry was in his last couple years in Tennessee. They were going away from him. He was splitting almost 50% time with Tajay Spears, who is a non-factor right now with Tony Pollard there. So we kind of forget how dominant this guy can be, and he hasn't been around a talented team in years, and look what happens here. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's fun to finally see him getting the carries and the love he deserves, and we'll see. Hopefully he hangs on and is healthy through the regular season into the postseason. That would be a real fun run to see him with the Ravens into the postseason.
How many touchdowns? Over, under 20 rushing touchdowns?
For the season, man, I got to say under, just because he hasn't stayed healthy. I think, one play here or there is going to mess up an ankle, or somehow these guys aren't stretching. Like, can we get back to stretching pregame and like really like running? It was hamstring injuries. I thought I was joking about in the pregame, like, why aren't we warming up? And then we come out again another week. We see 3 more hamstring injuries mid-game. Just ridiculous. Already talking about it with Travis Etienne, but we'll get to more later. But just do the work, stretch it out, run it out. There should not be a mid-game hamstring injury 6 weeks into the season.
yeah, like Nico Collins, not just a hamstring injury on the IR. Like, how is that even like that on a touchdown? It just, those are some plays to your point I have not seen yet. So we'll see what happens. Another stud. People drafted him really high, and they're starting to get. Now he's getting in the end zone, which is huge. Although there is a little bit of Tyler Algier kind of creeping in and taking some carries, but Bijan Robinson, man, I know people wanted this from him last year, and now he's finally showing up this week for sure.
Yeah, 95 and 2 touchdowns for Bijan. Playing the Carolina Panthers. Wish he could do it every week, but hey, at least he gets to do it twice.
Right.
In the division, Algier running wild as well. I think he got over 100 and had a touchdown of his own, but just nice to see Bijan efficient with the carries, really looking good. And it's about time for all those owners that have him. I feel bad for them because they all drafted him as a top 5 guy. Most of them are sitting with 2 or less wins right now when you've got a top tier running back like that hasn't gone double digits barely for you. I mean, just not producing, not winning any weeks. And this might finally be the week where he won some of those teams, their matchups. So it's got to feel good to have him in the lineup, see him going off and producing the way you think a top 5 running back really will.
He is just a different talent, and you can see it on the field. And I think Kirk Cousins is very good at pinpointing superstars throughout his career. So I think that Bijan will only just get better from here. And a welcome back party for Joe Mixon. I mean, what a day for him to come back and remind people I'm pretty good still. Don't forget about me over here. I know that CJ Stroud's all great and all, but I can hold my own myself. I've been doing it for almost 10 years. So the fact that this guy's still this good this late in his career and on the second team now, it's really impressive. And I just hope he can stay healthy. That, again, to your point, is his whole thing. But traditionally, one big injury is that's all that people get each season, I'm hoping. So Joe Mixon making a lot of people happy.
Yeah, looking like they took some extra time with it, make sure he comes back fully healthy from the injury. It didn't look quite like he was at 100%, but hopefully the injury isn't at risk of re-injury. You know, it looked like he maybe even has an extra gear that he's kind of missing, or he just, really getting up there in age. But had a still a nice game. 102 yards, 2 total touchdowns, big passing touchdown, receiving touchdown for him in the game. So nice to see, and it's really a compliment to that offense to have him, because we saw the backup running backs playing and they just couldn't get anything going whatsoever. And now finally he gets out, breaks some things loose, and then late in the game, Dameon Pierce is able to break one off. So it's something about just, giving that offensive line confidence when you break off a big run when you really shouldn't. All of a sudden the offensive line's like, oh, I'm going to block this guy so we can't get, it's like, as opposed to just getting stuffed for no gain left and right. Because we're seeing that a lot in the NFL. It's, teams that are having trouble running the ball are having trouble on offense because these D lines are just teeing off on these O linemen.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the Chicago Bears, right? I know they haven't played the greatest teams, but the moment they started committing more to the run, Caleb Williams has just been exponentially better. So I do think there is something to running the ball a little bit more. Yeah, and look, without Nico Collins on the Texans, they need someone to step it up. And while Joe Mixon is no Nico Collins as a receiver, he definitely will see a couple more passes his way until Nico Collins comes off the IR. Speaking of, I jumped the gun. I really like Caleb Williams. Finally, this is the number 1 pick, right? and he showed out.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing about him, even in his good games, he could be playing better. I mean, he threw a pick today that easily could have been a touchdown. I mean, it was like 20 yards underthrown. If he throws that ball correctly, he's going to have another 60 yards and 5 passing touchdowns for the day. Like, still good day, 226, 4 TDs, but that one pick, I mean, just nowhere close with that ball. Like, it wasn't something where a defender made just a great play. It was like he had just underthrown DJ Moore on a wide open go route, and just like, what are you even doing? Like, throw that ball earlier, do something different. That way, not even close. And he knew it right away. He was out there a little upset with himself, but luckily the Jaguars, I don't know why they didn't come to play. They got 2 games in a row in England.
They usually play well in London.
At least at least do well enough to get your head coach to fly back with you. I
Yeah,
mean,
I know.
they lose this next game like that. I don't think they're
It's
gonna have a
bad.
head coach. Might not even have a head coach. You know, we might get breaking news right now that he's fired. I think it's just cost too much to fly a new coach out there. You know, they're just gonna let him coach one more week, and then they might not even
Yeah.
get him a flight back to Jacksonville. Just
It'd just be awkward, you know.
go ahead, take your European vacation, Doug. It's
Yeah, it's true.
the flight back is not doesn't have a seat for you.
Yeah, he won't. He won't even come back after that. He's just like,
It'd be a
whatever.
rough way to find out you're fired. Like you go to get on the team plane and they're like, "Oh, sorry, sir, your credentials did not check
Yeah,
out.
you're no
You're not
longer the head coach. Like if
you're
you
no
found out
longer
you're not
yeah,
the
you're
head
not
coach
on
by
this
the
team." Like, "What? I'm the head coach." No, actually, we have a new interim coach. You are
yeah,
no longer the head coach.
that
Just
would
have
be
a security
brutal.
guard.
But pretty funny. You know, Caleb Williams. A few things. Even a couple games in, Keenan Allen healthy. Clearly a huge impact for him. He trusts him on these short routes. He's quick on his release now, and he's really taking care of the ball. He's not throwing these crazy balls. He's throwing them out of bounds. He's going for the next play, and he's happy to do it. Whereas, like, you could tell he was like, "Oh, I can make this play in college. I'm going to do this in the NFL." So I think a huge improvement already, and this is normal for rookie quarterbacks. What Jane Daniels did right away is not normal. So Caleb Williams is going to come back. He makes throws that not many people in the NFL can make. He just needs to hone that in, and it's starting to look like he is.
Yeah, he's calming down, slowing the game down a
Yeah,
little bit, and running when he needs to. You know, he's really taking off huge holes. Just got loose on a few huge runs today. It looked really good
yeah,
in the
no, and
process.
definitely. And then I don't know if you know the Saints and the Buccaneers game was wild. A lot of scoring. The fact that Mike Evans didn't score in this game is crazy. But when you look at Chris Godwin's stats, you're like you can understand why Mike Evans didn't get any love because it all went to Chris Godwin.
Yeah, on the second touchdown, nobody wanted to tackle him. I mean, just bouncing off guys like he was Derrick Henry. It was
Yeah,
ridiculous how some of these tackles out here in the NFL this year. I mean,
crazy.
linebackers on receivers, they're just hitting them in the shoulder pads and not wrapping up. I mean, just basically bouncing them outside, giving away lanes, giving away touchdowns. Godwin finishes with 11 for 125, 2 TDs. I mean, this is a guy that everybody had written off as no, he's not going to be that
He's done. Yeah,
elite number two receiver anymore that he was for those years with Brady. He's just going to be an average guy, a third,
right.
fourth receiver that's there, but he's not just more of a volume play, no real touchdown upside. Well, not so much this year. He's back in the slot, just tearing teams up left and right. It seems like he's absolutely taken over as the number one fantasy receiver for that team in
Yeah,
Tampa Bay. And I think he's a low end wide receiver one going forward at this point. He's proven that he can produce each and every week, and he has touchdown upside.
yeah. I mean the Bucks offense, man. Outside of Rashad White, anyone that starts for that team is due for a big game. So really target the Bucks offense at this point. They seem like the real deal.
Romeo Dobbs getting going for the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love had a
There you
huge
go.
game
That
as
was
well.
wild.
Love throwing for 258 and 4 TDs. So, of course, it's finally Romeo Dobbs' turn. 3 for 49, but 2 TDs. You got in a sticky spot and had to start him, paid off big for you, or real
Yeah.
deep leagues. You know, some of those guys are who you got to start. And that's a huge win for anybody who started Romeo Dobbs. And same with Jordan Love. I think he was on a lot of people's benches, but there are a lot of people wishing that they had put Love in over just about any other quarterback this week.
Yeah. I mean, even to the point, you know, things are going well when you throw it off your back foot fade away and it's short and Romeo Dobbs just there wide open because the cornerback's just running by. It just, you know, you're having a great day. And Dobbs has the skills. It's just, will he get enough targets and opportunities? We'll see. I mean, Christian Watson's rarely healthy, but he's getting involved. It's spreading around a little bit more. So I do think Romeo Dobbs is really interesting. And I mean, he is so gifted athletically that I hope to see a little bit more of him as well. You know, we talked about Evan Ingram. I have him on a lot of my rosters. Worth the wait, thank goodness. I was like, should I drop this guy? Is his hamstring still attached at this point? He's missed not on the IR. He's missed essentially 6 games, almost 6 games. So I was worried he might not even play come this morning. It's the early game as well, so it's really tough decision. And it's there's at least one bright spot in Jacksonville.
Yeah, no, back on the field looks good.
Yeah.
He's that dump off valve, and Jacksonville's going to be in a lot of high scoring games. Their D is no good. Their run game is real hit or miss, and who knows where they're going from here. But it looks like at least Evan Ingram's going to be part of the plan, the guy that's going to keep getting targets, keep getting looks, and
Yeah.
for a tight end, he's definitely going to produce that kind of targets, that kind
Yeah.
of catch volume. Very hard to find from the tight end position. I mean, 10 catches, that's Chris Godwin type numbers right there.
I
So
know. Just need to find the end zone.
just figure out how to find the end zone exactly. If he can score touchdowns, he's all of a sudden going to be real valuable. But
that's for any Jacksonville Jag, right? To find the end zone.
Yeah, it's finally Gabe Davis. Yeah. Who started Gabe Davis? This is the week. It paid off for you.
He dropped like 3 touchdowns also that game. Yeah, I mean,
still had 2. So it's just weird how that ball bounces.
Yeah.
In the NFL. And AJ Brown, nice to see him back on the field. Ends up with a real big game, couple of big bombs, gets 6 for 116 and a touchdown. Can't ask for much more out of him, especially on a day when the rest of Philly was kind of down. I mean, the receivers are back, but Jalen Hurts just had an okay game. Saquon Barkley, and we'll have to talk about him later because that wasn't pretty, but at least AJ Brown got it done. Another big receiving game for Zay Flowers, 9 for 102. This guy's coming alive. See somebody at least do something in Baltimore besides just Henry.
I know. No, it's good. It's good he's getting involved, and you're not going to see a lot of touchdowns because of Derrick Henry, but you're certainly getting a lot of volume because there's Mark Andrews. Scored at like 3 catches, so it's not much. A lot of injuries though. This time around, injuries are killing people. And then you add on the bye week. It's just there's nowhere to go for some of these. Like I was starting some crazy names this week, and I was starting Roschon Johnson, and they get to like the 2-yard line. I was like, "Come on, rush it in!" And it's DeAndre Swift. I'm like, and I'm like rooting for garbage time. I'm getting desperate out here.
It's tough, Guys were getting ruled out all day Saturday. Normally it's like Friday you hear about it. No, this is Saturday, and then even worse, the guys who went out there and played and then got hurt during the game and got people just no points or even possibly negative points. I mean, if you're a team that loses this week by less than 2 points and you started Chris Olave, that's going to be one of the more brutal losses you'll ever see. I mean, 1 catch for 5 yards, loses a fumble on the play, gets lit up helmet to helmet. It's not called on the play, so the fumble stands. Fumble goes the other way for Tampa Bay D. So if you started Tampa Bay D, huge week for you there. But Olave finishes with negative points. Depending on your, scoring format, could be negative 0.5, could be negative 1, could be negative 2. So just brutal day out there for Olave owners. And we talked about Travis Etienne. I mean, this guy has been looking bad, and now hamstring. That we know Jacksonville. That means that's going to be 3 or 4 weeks of them saying he's almost ready to play, and then he'll never play. I mean, expect him to be out at least next week, probably 2 weeks, maybe 3 or 4. The hamstrings are tough to know, but hopefully they just put him on the IR and, call it 4, and we'll see him when he's better.
Yeah, and goose egg for Marvin Harrison Jr., early concussion as well. They really needed him in that game, and that's brutal for Kyler Murray, who's been really solid throughout the season, and not just for fantasy, but the Arizona Cardinals seem like a big threat. And when you lose your top guy, it really ruins the entire flow of the game. So you could tell while Marvin Harrison Jr. has been the most consistent wide receiver when it comes to numbers, he clearly plays a big part in that offense because they were not only were they lost before that a little bit, but now their offense could not get going at all. So
no, they really seem like they need another receiver next to him to help take some of that pressure off him, relieve some of that. They thought they could do it without another true number 2, and it seems like they need a true number 1 or 1.5 to go with him, whether it's this trade deadline or in the offseason. They're going to need another weapon next to him.
And concussions aren't just, hey, they'll be back next week now. We've seen many concussions this season where they've missed that next game. So, I mean, Malik Neighbors, we don't need to talk about the Travis Scott concert, but certainly missed one full week with a concussion, and technically another week. So it is certainly something to keep an eye on.
And he had the extended break, so it wasn't like a huge hard hit. So they're just very hard to predict. You can't just tell from a hit how long someone's going to be out with a concussion. So could be a while. Dallas Goedert and Jerome Ford both going down with hamstring injuries. I mean, like we said, could be 2 weeks, could be 4 weeks. It's hard to know with hamstrings, but those guys are going to be out for a while. It hurt some people, but no fault of their own. They got hurt. Some of these guys didn't even play a full game, and it was just because they played so poorly. Dak Prescott, 178, 2 TDs, barely even played in the fourth quarter because it was such a blowout. Leading scorer for fantasy on Dallas, once again, the kicker, Brandon Aubrey. So if you had Dak Prescott, you're pissed, you're annoyed. It's about the time of year where Dak starts getting dropped. And then 2-3 weeks from now, he'll start performing like an elite fantasy quarterback because that's Dak's. That's his script. I mean, that's what Dak does. That's how they draw it up for Dak. And so early season woes are here. And so people are going to be dumping him, not starting him. But yeah, it's going to be a bumpy ride in Dallas for sure.
If I told you Caleb Williams had 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, would you say DJ Moore probably had a good game? And he didn't. That's scary.
Must start. Yeah, it must start if Caleb goes that, right?
Yeah, it's a scary situation. Keenan Allen seems, even the not only neighbors, even Rome Odunze, the other rookie, had more looks his way. It felt like he was more involved in this offense. So something to keep an eye on, man, because I know DJ Moore fantasy owners are not happy, and this is just another one that's hard to swallow.
Yeah, 4 for 20 yards, and he came out before the year and was talking about how he didn't want him to trade Fields, and I think some of those things have probably just rubbed Caleb the wrong way. Overall, they haven't worked together that well, and he's just kind of going to be a disgruntled wide receiver until he sees something from Caleb that really makes him think, okay, this kid's got it. And something about the routes he runs, the way he's out there, I mean, the ball's just not even close. I mean, Moore's running great routes, getting open, and the ball is nowhere to be seen.
True. Like we were talking about that pick. That's a big pick.
The ball was supposed to be a strength of Caleb Williams. I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing the air underneath these throws. He's trying to throw him on too much of a line drive. He's completely missing him on that deep out, those deep comebackers. Almost all of DJ Moore's route tree just doesn't seem like it's a wheelhouse throw for Caleb Williams. So we'll see how it goes, but he's definitely throwing to Cole Kmet and Keenan Allen more. He likes that short and intermediate pass.
Yeah.
A little dump offs to Swift. I mean, DJ Moore, he's going to be an angry man if they don't figure that out there in Chicago. But, hey, at least they won, so he can't be getting too mad about it.
Yeah, you had a guy who liked you, but you guys weren't winning, so what do you care more about? Another bad game, I guess when it rains, it pours. Brian Thomas dropped a horrific pass in the end zone, and he could have had such a bigger game, but Brian Thomas, that he just looked like a rookie today, and he's going to bounce back. And so is Mike Evans, who had a bad game. Both of them under 40 yards. Brian Thomas, 3 catches. Mike Evans, 2 catches. Those guys will bounce back, but it just reminds you, man, no matter how hot they are at the moment, there's a cool down at some point, and those 2 wide receivers are key to a lot of teams, and they certainly cooled down this week.
Yeah, a couple of running backs that went top 10 this week. You think these are top 10 running backs. James Conner, 24 yards and a fumble lost. That's brutal. Saquon Barkley, only 47 rushing yards. Tough matchup, but still, that's not what you expect out of your stub guys. And earlier on Thursday night, we saw Ayuk and DK Metcalf just not really show up for guys under 50 yards receiving for both of those guys. So tough week out there for some star players, but more studs than duds, I'd say, for sure.
Absolutely. And the Phillies kind of concerning outside of A.J. Brown. That offense is just not clicking. So keep an eye on that and see what happens. Not to say Saquon's. I don't think Saquon's at fault here, right? He's pretty skilled.
something. That run game, even the tush push is like, is that gonna work? I don't
Yeah,
know. So
it's like you're just slowing everything down and just all the time. You're almost playing for third and first and fourth and ones, or third and ones and fourth and ones at this point. They do it so often. So well,
it just isn't the prolific play it used to be. It looks much more forced and dangerous and
yeah.
not getting that same kind of push. But we're almost out of here. I think they're gonna let us go. Let us get back to our families. That hopefully there's
Who should
no
I pick up this week? Who should
in Dynasty. A guy that I picked up this week, Jalen Corker for the Carolina Panthers, had a big game last week, had 3 for 30 again this week in a down week for Carolina. So this is a guy that kind of
isn't it always a down week for Carolina?
Exactly. So if you can produce for Carolina, it seems like he may be able to sneak past Mingo and Xavier Legette as being that young wide receiver that's stepping in while Adam Thielen's out. And really, by the time Adam Thielen gets back, you'd think they're going to just try to trade him to a team that needs another body, another guy that can be a third, fourth wide receiver because he's just way too old for that team at this point. You're just taking away reps from other guys who need it. And the real scary thing is we might have to see Andy Dalton sit back down, see what we got.
Yeah. At this point, what are we doing, right?
But, I mean, maybe you're just hurting his trade value. I don't know. You're just basically what we've seen is Carolina is just far and away the worst team, and they have been able to do it a little bit with some smoke and mirrors with Andy Dalton, the quarterback, but team doesn't have the weapons to get it done.
Sometimes a losing franchise, it's more than just players. It's the culture, and it's got to take time to change it. And right now, it's a mess over there. You know who I like? And I know you like Sean Tucker. He came on strong today for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And, I mean, last year he had a little bit of buzz as a rookie coming in. And today just went off getting the chance with Rachaad White out. And you getting hot over there?
So hot. We got to get out of here.
Yeah. So I think spend a good amount on him, not all of it, but he could be someone who really could win you a league if he's the guy there. So look out for Sean Tucker.
Drake May taken out over in New England. Looks like he'll be the starter for the foreseeable future, unless something weird happens out there. Obviously injuries could slow him down, but 240 yards, 3 TDs, and 2 INTs. Pretty good start. At least he's moving the ball around. I don't really worry about those interceptions. If the yardage and TD numbers are there for a rookie quarterback, he's looked good in the limited time we've seen him. Big arm, I think he looks better than we expected, especially for a first day. And he connected with Kayshon Boutte, so it's nice to see him getting out there, getting the TD, 3 for 59. Yeah, exactly. So, he's getting the loot out there, and it's time because they don't have anything else to look forward to there in New England. I mean, that team is just not quite what you need for a quarterback. You're setting him up in just a tough situation. I mean, where are the weapons? Who are you going to throw to? So at least he's deciding, all right, I like this guy. I like this guy.
Yeah,
that's true. DeMario Douglas get involved too, have a solid game. So it's time to see Drake May. He looks better than I thought he would. So he's only going to get better.
Yeah, real quick, I think we got like 20 seconds left. Producers are trying to kick us off. Dearness Johnson, the prettiest girl at the ugly party. So maybe hold on to him. And then Spencer Rattler, I know you spoke you spoke about him before the show. He showed some sparks. I think you should worth holding on for sure after that. There's some promise there. He's a rookie. Don't get me wrong. He looks like a rookie, but maybe Chris Olave stays in there. It looks a little different, but worth holding on to.
So if next week Ford can't play and Chubb's not back, does Dearness or does he get to go to the pretty party? Is that how that works? Like if you're the prettiest girl at the ugly party and then the cute girl.
Yeah, I mean you would be the prettiest at the ugly party at that point. Yeah, I think
then
so.
He gets to be the ugly one at the pretty party. Like
you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be that. He usually is. So it's a compliment.
And stay away from a Diddy party. Don't go to any of those.
No Diddy parties.
Don't go to just a rap mogul.
You're dressed for one now without your jacket.
Right now I'm all white. No. I'm not wearing white on the bottom. Stay away. Stay away.
Oh,
I'm not
yeah,
going to
okay.
party.
You're safe then. You're safe.
No Sunday night parties, right? This is the Lord's Day. Stay away.
All right, producers are like,
Worshipers.
now we've lost it. The producers are yelling at us. We gotta go. We gotta go. All right,
They're
I'll
like,
see
you
next
guys
week.
aren't even on air. What do they care?
Yeah. Hey, you know our directors. They'll punch up anything. All right.